All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless me here again, talking about real music in real time for a couple of real people out there, just like you, just like me. All right, before I get going here, this is Hydra, really cool music. Album's called Point Break. Kind of sounds like Toto and Europe. Okay, that's the combination that I have kind of figured out here, but you might hear some other influences. And if you like a classic sounding album with some modern touches, but more geared toward, I would say, Toto fans than anything else, this is something you should check out. So, again, the album is called Point Break. The band is Hydra. I know, not the most glamorous album cover, but it kind of works for me. I don't know. Classic looking stuff there. Speaking of classic and old, although Hydra isn't old, but bands like REO Speedwagon, Styx, Boston, and Foreigner are all fairly old bands. And guess what? They're not being considered for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at all, according to the guy who runs the place, Jan Wenner. Look, they like more obscure stuff for the most part. Although, again, Journey is in, Bon Jovi is in. I don't know if it's political. I don't know how that all works. But apparently, according to Wenner, the nominating committee hasn't even taken it up. Like, it hasn't even been raised. Like, what do you think of REO Speedwagon, right? REO Speedwagon, they date back to like the late 1960s. Look, people, I'm still hung up on Steppenwolf and Blue Oyster Cult, the Guess Who, Jim Croce. There are a lot of artists that, should be in the Hall of Fame who aren't, and they date back pretty far in some cases. But apparently none of those artists aren't, they're just not going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, there are other bands like Triumph. I mean, Triumph, this great band from Canada, have they ever been considered for the Hall of Fame? It's just really tragic. And I've said this before, and everybody kind of already knows the punchline here, is that these bands all represent a style, a type of commercialism. They're still on the radio, right? They're still getting lots of spins. Whereas, a guy like Lou Reed or the Velvet Underground, a band that Lou Reed was in, they're not getting spins at radio today. They're just not. It seems that all the really good stuff that people like to listen to isn't really welcome in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you know what? I'm kind of over it. But it's just a little bit shocking to actually hear the guy say, no, the nominating committee, I'm not in charge of that per se, but the nominating committee, they've never even considered REO Speedwagon or Styx. So, for the awkward Styx reunion, which would have to take place on stage, I don't think that's going to happen, right? It's too bad, because why not? Why not Styx? Why not Foreigner? I think of all the bands on that list, I would have to say Foreigner would be the one that would probably be eligible first, and then maybe REO Speedwagon. I say REO because of the longevity. The 70s version of that band was very impressive, and then, they dominated during the 80s for a number of years. I mean, to have that kind of run and still be out there, Kevin Cronin still on stage singing with that band. I don't know, people. It's one of those things that, again, if you're a fan of music, you got your music. I guess it doesn't matter if they get into the Hall of Fame. The institution itself is broken. It might have been broken when it began, or it may have been a little better when it started, but now it's become political, and certainly you have to hold certain beliefs, I think, which make it easier for you to be in the Hall of Fame. And a certain kind of music. I would say the music that they prefer is a bit off the beaten track, a bit rebellious, not as melodic, certainly not as tasteful. There are obviously exceptions to that rule. Carly Simon is going in to the Hall of Fame, right? I would say this about Carly Simon, though. They need or they want more women in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've said this. And, you've got Pat Benatar, Carly Simon, Stevie Nicks recently. And there are others out there that are deserving to be in there, not just because they're female, but because they're really good. So, yeah, women, great. So long as, they've got a decent career. They had some influence on their generation and the subsequent generations of music. And, say they have a pretty decent catalog that you hear every now and then, on the radio. I look, radio maybe not the right gauge for this because radio is now omitting so much material that used to be on the radio all the time. I mean, Carly Simon, what? One song maybe they play? They play You're So Vain. I mean, look, adult contemporary radio, you might hear a couple of other tracks by Carly, but really music, like I say, the whole industry is like shrinking. It's just disappearing. So the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they're going to just be the way they are. And this is not at all surprising to me. It's just really interesting to see it confirmed. And the guy who runs the place, he doesn't seem to care. He's just like, yeah, no, those bands aren't going to be nominated. So don't worry about it. It's like, don't sweat it. We'll just skip past it. We're already putting bands in from the 90s. We'll be putting bands in that are, not as old. I think it's 25 years though, isn't it? I don't know, 20 years, 25 years. I mean, the rules are a little bit weird. You're eligible, I think, after 25 years. That's what I remember. But I could be wrong on that detail. And I'm sure someone will hold me accountable for getting that wrong. So in any event, here's Hydra, Point Break. It's good stuff. Go listen to it. Frontiers Music. Bunch of guys from Sweden yet again. Hey, if I was around like the Swedish music scene, I would probably be really happy. I could go out and see concerts and see new bands roaming the countryside, although it's a bit cold in Sweden and I don't think I could take that. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and Patreon, people. It's been kind of a weird month as things are slowing down a bit. We've gotten a few new patrons. I'm trying to get some legal experts on as well, possibly, to talk about trademarks and copyrights, since I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So just this will help clear it up, even though the guys who approached me said, yeah, you're pretty much correct, but, we're the legal team and we can kind of flesh out some of those details, because sometimes, being a layman, you don't know everything. I'm not supposed to know everything about everything, but apparently, that's the standard. All right, people, thanks for watching. I will see you really, really soon. Take care.